Okay. A very good morning to all my dear students. We are in Unit 2, wherein in our previous classes we have noted what do you mean by fundamental rights of a constitution? What is the meaning, definition, nature of fundamental rights which are conferred by the constitution of our country? We also dealt with different articles which were related to fundamental rights. We started from Article 14 and we were talking or we have understood till Article 25. In our today's class, we are going to complete all the articles, remaining articles from Article 25 to 28 and again 29, 30 and 32. With this, we will complete our fundamental rights which were conferred by the Constitution of our country. Okay? So let's start understanding what do you mean by Article 25. In my last class also, I have explained you this article. I'll just give you a glimpse of this article and let's move to the next article. Students, when I speak about Article 25, it clearly states that there should be freedom of religion in India. Now, what happens is when I speak about freedom of religion in India, students, freedom of religion is considered as one of the most important human right. And I told you, religion is the way, or you can say it is considered as a path where an individual attains supremacy. Okay. Now, when I speak about our country, what has happened is the preamble of our constitution has clearly declared our country to be a secular country. This means that the state will not have any particular religion or the country will not have a state sponsored religion. All the religions are considered to be equal in the eyes of law. Now, when I speak specifically about Article 25, students, it clearly states that every person in the country has a right wherein he has a right to choose his religion on his own. Everyone, every citizen in our country has a right to practice the religion he or she chooses. Now, when I speak about freedom of religion, students, it also includes freedom of concise. Means when I speak about freedom of concise, it clearly states that a person can choose any religion according to his or her own choice. When I speak about freedom of religion, now when I speak about freedom of religion, it includes freedom to profess, it includes freedom to follow any religion, it includes freedom to propagate any religion. Now, students, when I mean to profess means what? In simple language, profess means you can, as a person, as a citizen of a country, you can freely declare or you can freely state your own belief. You can freely state what faith you have, what belief you have. Nobody is forcing you. Okay. Now, when I speak about practicing any religion, it means that you are allowed to practice any rituals, you are allowed to practice any duties, you are allowed to practice any rites of any religion which you choose. Nobody is going to force you. You are free to choose your own religion. Now, when I speak about propagate, now when I speak about propagate any religion, it means that if you are knowledgeable, you can spread and publicly spread knowledge. You spread your religious beliefs regarding your own religion. You can educate people, Hence, nobody will force you. But the only thing what the constitution does not allow is it does not allow forceful conversion. Conversion means you belong to one religion, and what are you doing? You are converting, you're transforming to any other religion. That is banned by the constitution of a country. But very importantly, if you're changing or converting to any other religion according to your own choice, according to your own desire, then the constitution of the country or the rights will not be interfered or it will not be taken into account. But if there is forceful conversion, when you are converting from one religion to the another religion forcefully, at that point of time the constitution will interfere and it will not allow such things to happen. Okay, now let's move to article 26. When I speak about article 26, students, article 26 clearly states that there is freedom to manage religious affairs. Now, as stated in Article 25, or as we have discussed earlier, every citizen of a country has a right to practice any religion, believe in any religion, or propagate any religion, or you can profess any religion. But what Article 26 says that you have a right, you have a freedom to manage religious affairs. Now, students, when I speak about Article 26, okay, it clearly or it tells that any person can deal with collective rights of religious denominations. Now, what do you mean by collective rights of religious denomination? Students, religious denominations means what? See, you must have seen in our country that there are collection of individuals. Collection of individuals means group of individuals. Or you can say you have a association of different people or persons wherein they come together. Okay, they come together at a particular place and they believe in a single religion or they have a faith in a single religion, and these associations or these persons have come together and given or designated a certain name to it. Okay, I can give you examples wherein there is association of people, wherein people having same belief over one particular religion or same faith among a particular religion comes together and educates people, practices the different religion practices which are ongoing, or tries to propagate or spread the beliefs, or you can say publicize, or you can say that they try to impart their religious knowledge to a different or a set of community. Now I can give you example of such associations. You must be, you have already heard about mutts which are prevailing in our country. Example, you have Krishna Mutt, or you can say there is something called as Ram Krishna Mission. Okay, then there is a community of Sikhs. Okay, same, there is a community of Muslim people, there is a community of Christianity where people come together, associate together, and try to impart knowledge. But this association of people is only where they have common faith and belief, and nobody can restrict you, nor the constitution can restrict you. You have a complete right, you have a complete human right where you can manage religious affairs. Now, what happens is when you are associating with different people having common faith, you can manage its affairs in the matters of religion. You can acquire property which is movable and immovable of that particular association having common belief. You can administer such property in the name of that particular association. So when I speak about Article 26, it clearly states that as a citizen of a country, you can associate, you can form groups. Which groups you can form? You can form groups who have a common belief, you have who have a common faith, wherein there is association of people from different places or different parts of the country who come together, who have a same belief or same faith in a particular religion. You can practice that particular religion, you can perform rituals, you can perform rites, etc. You can impart knowledge, you can spread knowledge, you can propagate knowledge. Okay. Now when I speak about Article 27, from your examination point of view, you just read this article once. They are not very, very important. Or rather, you can say these Article 26 to 30 are not being asked in your examination. As a article which is imparted in the Constitution, you should have a idea and you should know what which article states. So I'm explaining you. From your examination point of view, these articles are not very, very important. Article 25 is important from your examination point of view. Okay. Now let's move to the next article. This article 27 speaks about freedom from taxes for promotion of a particular or for any particular religion. Students, when I speak about freedom of taxes, now what happens? At least you must be knowing that we pay tax to the government, right? As an individual, if we fall in that particular slab rates according to the IT Act, that is in Income Tax Act, at that point of time we have to pay taxes to the government, right? Now what has happened is Article 27 states that you may get complete freedom from taxes, means you need not pay taxes if you are promoting a particular religion. That does not mean as an individual you should not make or you should not pay taxes. But when you're associating, when you're a group of individuals who are promoting, who are propagating, who have come together for performing some beliefs, who have common faith, or who are propagating their own religion, at that point of time the constitution of our country clearly states that no person or no citizen in our country shall be compelled to pay taxes or shall be asked to pay taxes for the promotion of any religion. It has not mentioned a particular religion. Why? Because when I speak about our country, it is a secular country. And when I speak about secularism, we as a country do not have a specific religion. So, now we have different religions which are prevailing in our country. So, if people from different religions are come together, or now example a particular religion, the people from that particular religion come together, associate together, and try to promote a particular religion, at that point of time the government of our country will free them from taxes, means they will give you a right wherein you are excelled or you need not pay the taxes to the government. But very importantly, you should understand that the public money which is collected by the way of taxes cannot be spent by the state for the promotion of any particular religion. Students, now what happens is, as an individual we pay taxes to the government, okay, for the betterment of our running of our country. But at that point of time when we as an individual are paying taxes to the government cannot utilize that particular taxes for promotion of any religion, because we have different religions which are prevailing in our country. So the government cannot use our money for promoting a particular religion. We see, if we are promoting, we as a group of individuals are promoting a religion, at that point of time we need not pay taxes to the government. But as an individual, as a salaried person, if you are an entrepreneur, you have certain amount of money which has to be paid in the form of tax to the government. But once the government collects those taxes, it cannot utilize those taxes for promotion or for propagating any type of religion or any religion. It is only wherein we as a individuals, if we are using or we are promoting or we are propagating any religion, we need not pay taxes to the government. But if at that point of time the government has collected taxes, every year the government collect taxes, then that collected money cannot be used by the government to propagate or to promote any religion. Why? Because the justification is that wherein we have a country which is secular in nature. We have a country wherein we treat all the individuals as equal. We do not give special treatment or special privilege to any only one sort of or one particular group of religion. We have different religions which are prevailing, and those are considered equal in the eyes of law. Okay, now next article which speaks about Article 28. Students, very easy article to understand. Prohibition of religious instructions in the state aided institutions. Now, this article states that no religious instructions shall be imparted in any educational institutions wholly or maintained by the country. Now, when you are running a particular educational institution, which is, see, I am telling you all, just see, you are running a educational institution wherein that educational institution is wholly, means the entire working or a part of that particular institution is run, is being controlled, is being managed, is being the entire working is controlled by the government of our country. At in that particular educational institution, you cannot impart religious beliefs of only one religion. Are you understanding what I'm speaking? See, once more I will repeat. When I speak about Article 28, which states that there is prohibition of religious instructions in state aided institutions. Now, whenever you are running a educational institute, okay, which is either wholly managed, wholly controlled, wholly instructed, wholly supervised by the government of our country, that is India, or it might be wherein it is partly managed by the government of India. As a educational institute, you cannot impart or you cannot conduct practices of only one particular religion. Because when I speak about imparting knowledge about one particular religion, if as an institution you are practicing any religious beliefs, it might so happen that it will hinder other religions' beliefs. We as a country think that all religions are equal before the eyes of law, and within our educational institutes all are treated equally. So when there is an educational institute which is run, I'm telling you once more, which it is run with, which wherein it is controlled, wherein it is managed by the government of our country, you cannot impart, you cannot spread, you cannot propagate only one religion. You have to treat all the religions equal, because India is a secular country. All religions are equal, and hence the government does not give special privilege or special favoritism to practice only one religion. Okay, now let's move to Article 29. Students, when I speak about Article 29, it speaks about or it clearly states that minorities have a right to conserve or to protect language, script, or culture. Now, when I speak about the terminology called as conserve means what? It means protection. Now, according to Article 29, it clearly states, students, that You may belong to any section of the society, or you may belong to any group of society wherein you are residing in any part of the country. Maybe you're residing in the north, south, east, west. Now, when I speak about our country, we have distinct culture. We have a different culture. We do not have a culture which is uniformly followed. We have different states. We have different religions. We have different castes. We have different subcastes. Accordingly, when we have so many categories, we also have different culture. We have different languages which are spoken, which we have different scripts. Now, what has happened is, when you are large in number, naturally you have more people to protect the language. You have more people practicing only one particular type of culture. When you have majority of people, what will happen? You have majority of people or persons practicing only one type of a culture. But there are states, there are parts in our countries wherein there are minorities, where people are less in number, wherein these rights are specially conferred by the constitution of a country to the citizens, or you can say any section of the citizens, or you can say any group of people, wherein they clearly tell that whether you belong to a minority, less number of people, or you belong to majority, wherein you are uniformly following a one particular religion, you uniformly following one particular language, you are speaking only one language, you are just inculcating one particular script, you are just practicing it, you are just learning it. It doesn't matter. The constitution says that whether you are minority, whether you're majority, the constitution of a country gives this right to every citizen to conserve. Conserve means what? To protect the language in our country. They can, as a minority, you can protect the script, and as a minority, you can protect the culture of your own society or your own association of people. Now, when I speak about this right, students, now this right is completely given to some part of the citizens or some sections of citizens, whether immaterial if they are major, or they are you can say minor, or they are having a majority. This right is being conferred by the constitution of a country, wherein you have a right wherein you can protect the language, you can protect the script, you can protect the culture of your own. And this right may be exercised in any educational institutions also, because you can find any many educational institutions wherein they have their own languages. Okay, you have seen now in Karnataka, you have seen colleges, educational institutes, schooling, wherein you have educational institution wherein you have institutions practicing English language. You have people educational institutes with Marathi, Kannada, Urdu, etc. So at that point of time, it does not matter if you are you are large in number, you are less in number. It doesn't matter. This right has been conferred by the constitution of a country, wherein you have a right to protect, to conserve your own language, script, and culture what you're following. I can give you an example. Okay. See, when you are a citizen of a Karnataka, okay, you're staying or residing in Karnataka. But what happens is, due to some professionalism or some reason, what you do, you shift to Delhi. So what are you doing? You're moving from south to north. At that point of time, you have a right to conserve your language or your culture. Nobody can stop you. You can speak in your own language. You can protect your own language. You can practice any form of your culture according to your own choice. Since you're staying in Delhi or residing in Delhi, that doesn't mean you have to adopt to the culture what they are practicing. You can protect, you can practice, you can talk, you can speak in any language according to your choice. See, that goes same with vice versa. If a person is moving from Delhi to Karnataka, that doesn't mean he has to only speak Kannada. Okay, he can speak in Hindi, he can speak in English, any language he want. He can practice any religion, he can profess any religion, then he can follow practices, culture, he can celebrate any festivals. Nobody can stop you, whether you reside in north, whether you reside in south. If you are residing in any part of the country, you have a complete right to conserve, to protect the language, script, or culture. Okay, now let's move to the next article that speaks about Article 30. Article 30 states that there is a right to minorities to establish, means to frame, to form, to administer educational institutes. Students, it is just not you are a majority in number, that means only you have a right to establish educational institutions. Even though you are less in number, Article 30 guarantees two rights wherein you have a right to religion and you have a right for linguistic minorities, means people who speak only a particular language but are considered to be minor because they are less in number. Now they have a right. What which right they have? They have a right to establish any educational institution they like of their own choice, and very importantly, just establishing, no, they have complete right to administer that particular educational institution. Now, what do you mean by administer educational institutions, students? When I speak about administer educational institutions, as a minor, you can manage the affairs of the institution. It includes that you have a right to choose it, you have a right to govern it. As a minor, you have a right to choose who will be the teachers of that particular institution, what languages will be followed in that particular religion or that particular institution. When I speak about this Article 20, these minorities have a right to establish these minorities who are less in number, who want to follow one particular language. They are classified as linguistic minorities. They have a right to administer the educational institutions. They have a right to choose, to govern, to control, to manage, to look into all the affairs of that particular educational institutions. They have a right to choose whichever teachers they want. Okay, they have a right to choose whichever medium they want to start. Nobody can compel them, nobody can force them. So even though if you are minor, you are less in number. Okay, now minor means a group of people who are less in number but are associated or attached to one particular language or one particular religion. So in our country like India, wherein we have a distinct culture, wherein we have culture wherein different knowledge is being imparted, we are not restrictive to only one particular culture, one particular religion, or you can say one particular belief. We have people wherein they believe different religions, etc. So at that point of time, Article 20 clearly confers that every citizen, whether he is minor, whether he is a major, he has a right to form, he has a right to establish, he has a right to frame different educational institutions. They can decide the medium of institutions and they can run so. Okay. Next, the last article of the fundamental rights, that is Article 32. This is the last article of the fundamental rights, that is right to constitutional remedies. Okay. Now, when I speak about right to constitutional remedies, students, here, see, now from our last 4 to 5 classes, we are studying what is the meaning of fundamental rights. We are studying what is the nature, what is the definition, which are the different articles, right from the Article 14, which stated about right to equality, 14, 15, 16 till 30. We have studied almost 15 to 16 articles and what each article states and what is the reason behind imparting or including such articles in the constitution. Now what happens is, when all these fundamental rights are included, or you can say if they are incorporated in the constitution of our country, students, this article is considered to be very, very important, which states that there is a right to constitutional remedies. Now, what happens is, if there is no, now you can say, there is no meaning to rights if they are not enforced. Okay, now rights, at least we know we have different human rights. Okay, and the human rights which are enriched, which are incorporated, which are recognized by the country, are being regarded as fundamental rights. Now when I speak about fundamental rights, if these rights, now these rights are already conferred, okay, these are already included in the constitution. Now if these rights are not enforced, there is no meaning, because just it is there in the constitution, that is not enough. It is very important that the court sees to it that they are being established, they are being into force, they are enforced to every citizen of the country. Now, you can say that when I'm speaking about different fundamental rights, mere declaration or mere stating or mere incorporating those fundamental rights in our constitution is not enough, students. They, what will happen if they are just incorporated, okay, or if they are just included, they will lose their importance. But if they are safeguarded, if they are protected, if they are bound by the constitutional remedies, at that point of time they will get some importance. See, when I speak about Article 32, it says that each and every right which is conferred by the constitution of our country, fundamental right, right from Article 14 to Article 30, all these rights merely incorporating is not important. It is very, very important that these rights which are already been included in the constitution of our country should be imparted, should be enforced, should be safeguarded, should be protected, should be enforced. And hence, when I speak about this Article 32, students, it is very important that the constitution of our country should safeguard it. And just by telling that you have to safeguard, it will have no value. So there is one more article which is added, that is called as Article 32, which clearly states that you as a citizen should have a right, fundamental right, and very important, the constitution should safeguard that fundamental right. Just you have fundamental right will have no importance, will have no meaning. The constitution should confer and should enforce it through a mechanism which is called as constitutional remedies. And this mechanism is being stated in Article 32. Now, what happens is, what is this mechanism? Now, think, there are different rights which are conferred by the constitution of our country. Now, if what happens is, if any citizen or if any person's right is being violated, or see, if anybody is deprived of any right. Now I told you Article 21 speaks about right to personal liberty, freedom, etc. Now if anybody's freedom is being deprived, at that point of time, the person, the citizen can go to the high court, the citizen can go to the Supreme Court, and he can state this article, saying that Article 32 states clearly that there is a mechanism wherein it safeguards all the rights which are conferred by the fundamental rights in the form of constitution, which are imparted or given to the citizen. And then if any rights, fundamental rights, are violated by any person of the country, or they are not being conferred, the citizens of our country can directly go to the Supreme Court, or you can approach the court of law saying that my right is being violated and I have to be conferred with such fundamental rights. So, when I speak about a violation of fundamental rights which are enforced by the Supreme Court of a country, it is under Article 32, wherein you, as a citizen of a country, can go either to the Supreme Court or go to the High Court and approach and say that my constitutional right has been deprived. There are different fundamental rights which are conferred by the Constitution of India from Article 14 to Article 30. Now, think, you are not being treated equally. Okay, you have been deprived of that right. Then you can move your case to the High Court saying that there is no right to equality. And you can also take the support of Article 32 saying that my right has been violated. There is a fundamental right which has been conferred by the Constitution of our country, and this has not been protected under Article 32. With this, we complete the fundamental rights. Now, let's move how these fundamental rights or constitutional remedies are being protected. Students, the next thing what we have to learn is the last part, wherein you should understand what is the meaning of writs. Okay, or you can say a writ. Now, what happens is, I told you that there is enforcement of fundamental rights. Okay, now there are different fundamental rights which are conferred, imparted, or incorporated by the constitution of a country. Now, how are they imparted? They are imparted or they are included through writs. So, let us understand what is the meaning of writs. Now, in our last classes, we already spoke about what is a fundamental right, what is the nature of fundamental rights, what is the meaning of fundamental rights, and also we spoke about different fundamental rights, right from Article 14 to 30. Okay. Now let's understand how are these fundamental rights being enforced. Now what has happened is, students, when I speak about enforcement of these fundamental rights, these are being enforced through a mechanism of writs. Okay, it is called as a writ. Now when I speak about a writ, okay, now what has happened is, a writ is considered to be a written order which is issued by the High Court of the country, or you can say it is issued by the Supreme Court. Now, it is issued to whom? It is issued to a person, or you can say it is issued to an authority, or an authority commanding or ordering that person or authority to do or not to do certain act. Students, in simple language, I'll tell you what happens is, now, as a citizen of a country, your fundamental right has been violated. So, what do you do when your fundamental right has been violated? When your fundamental right is violated, I told you you have to approach the court. Which court you're going to approach? You're going to approach either the High Court or you're going to approach the Supreme Court. At that point of time, when you are going to the or approaching to the Supreme Court, you are going to say that, or you are going to file a case saying that my such and such right has been violated. It is a fundamental right. It is conferred by the Constitution to every citizen. Then what will happen once this case is standing in the court of law? Now, what does the court of law does? The court of law directly issues a written order to the person who is depriving your right. It may be either one person, now A and B. You are A, your right has been violated. So you go and file a case against B saying that B has violated my right. Okay. Now, a B can be a particular person, B can be a particular authority, B can be a particular organization, etc. So, what do? You go to the court of law and say that that other person has violated my right. So, at that point of time, the Supreme Court or the High Court sends a written order wherein the Supreme Court asks that particular person or authority either to do that particular act or stop doing. If it is, in some cases, there is necessity of doing a certain act wherein your right has been violated, so the Supreme Court may ask not to do that, or in certain cases, if there is necessity as the circumstances, the Supreme Court or the High Court may ask to do that. So when I speak about writ, you have to understand that it is a written order which is given by the Supreme Court or the High Court to a person or authority whose right or whose fundamental right is being what violated, or it is deprived, wherein the court, that is High Court or Supreme Court, may ask a particular person to do a act or to stop means refrain from doing. Now students, there are basically five types of writs. First is the writ of habeas corpus, the writ of mandamus, the writ of prohibition, the writ of certiorari, and the writ of quo warranto. Now, what happens in the first writ? In the case of first writ, the writ of habeas corpus. See, this habeas corpus is a Latin word. Okay, in English means what? Bring the body. Now, here what happens is, I told you, if there are two persons, A and B, at that point of time, what happens is there is an order which is passed asking A, who has detained the body of B, or wherein the court asks the persons, wherein you both the persons are compulsorily asked to come to the court, wherein the court is going to examine the legality of detention. See, what happens here if A wrongfully detains means he wrongfully accuses or detains any other person, okay, wrongfully. At that point of time, B can go and approach to the court of law saying that he has detained me. I have a right. I have which right? I have a right to personal liberty. I am applying Article 21, which says that there is a right of freedom, and this A is violating my right. At that point of time, the court, which is called as Supreme Court or High Court, may ask A and B to come before the court, wherein the court will examine what is happening, will judge according to the evidence, and then if the detention is illegal, then the court may pass a written order saying that you have to release. So what is a writ? Writ is a written order which is passed by the Supreme Court or the High Court, wherein any person's right has been violated, the court asks to retain that particular right and protect that particular right. Then there is something called as writ of mandamus. When I speak about writ of mandamus, students, what happens here is, when I'm speaking about writ of mandamus, it is considered to be a order or command. Here, what happens? Here, when I speak about order and command, the Supreme Court or the High Court will issue or a order, or they will give a command. They will give a command to a person. They will give a command to authority. That will give a command or the order to lower courts, wherein you will be asked to do a particular thing or you will not be asked to do a certain thing. See, when I speak about writs, I told you in my last slide also, a writ is a written order wherein you are asked to do something or you are asked to stop doing something. So when I speak about writ, the second writ speaks about mandamus. Mandamus is what? It is an order. It is a written order wherein you are asked to do something or you are not asked to do something. Now, when I speak about writ of prohibition means it is a order which is given by the Supreme Court wherein it is prohibiting the inferior courts to look only after the scope or prohibition. Okay, prohibiting the area. It is telling that you have to restrict only to the area in which you're concerned. Same goes with that of certiorari. At the same time also, see, if you are feeling that somebody has violated my right, at that point of time what will happen is you can move from lower court to the higher court. Then writ of quo warranto. The writ of quo warranto clearly states that what is your authority. When I speak about what is your authority by this writ, what happens is the Supreme Court or the High Court can call an office or you can call a person and ask to show what is the authority, what office he holds, what is the authority. So sometimes you ask, no, who are you? What is your authority? This is a writ. This is a writ of quo warranto. And if any person who is not legally entitled to hold hold that particular office or hold that particular authority, at that point of time, if he is depriving any other person's right, he may ask to refrain back. And this is given by Supreme Court and the High Court. The next is which speaks about PIL. PIL is public interest litigation, which is called as PIL in short. It is abbreviated as such. Students, there is a particular procedure wherein you have to go to Supreme Court and you have to follow a proper procedure whenever your right has been violated. But what happens is, if you are not in a position to go to a Supreme Court, what can you do is you can write a letter to your Supreme Court saying that a particular group of people have certain grievances, have certain trouble, and the court has to take necessary action. At that point of time, it is in interest of the public. If a group of people feels that their right has been violated, they can go to the court of law. They have to follow a particular protocol, but in some circumstances, if they cannot follow the protocol, as a group of people, if their fundamental rights are being violated, they can write a letter to the Supreme Court and ask for taking action. This is called as PIL. Okay, it is just 1 mark question, may be asked. Thank you.